Hello and welcome to another wonderful session. We're going to continue with our HTML and CSS. In this lecture, we're going to learn how to create a form. Forms make our website to be more interactive because with a form, a client visiting your website can actually send some message to you. So to get started, I'm going to quickly share my screen so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so this is my screen, and this is the form that we're going to be using. So this is what we are looking at building out. This is the layer, and this is the form. So this is a registration form. You can see here written registration form, and you can see please fill in this form to create an account. So this is a typical form that you fill to create an account. Let's say you went to Facebook and you want to create an account in Facebook. This is a typical form you can fill by filling in your email, your password, repeating the password, and registering. Then if you had registered before, it will be to just sign in. So how can you produce a form like this using HTML? So we're going to find out that in creating a form, there is what we call form elements. So we're going to learn how to bring in the various form elements. So I'm going to show you what form elements are. This email we have here is what we call label. This email is what we call what? Label. Please stop typing now and just pay attention. You can always type when I'm done. Just pay attention now so that you get these things. So that when I show you them in code, you understand them. You understand? So this email written here is what we call label. You understand? And the label name is what? Email. Is that clear? Anytime you want to bring in the name of an element, you use the label element to bring it in. This text box that we have here, where you can type in the email, is known as input. It's known as what? Input type text. Input type what? Text. This one is input type label. Input type what? This button that you click to submit, we call it input type button. Input type what? This is a button input type. So you need to know all these form elements so that when you want to bring them in, you know the right code. Class, is that clear? This one is just a simple H1. You know H1, you've done H1, but this one is just a simple paragraph. This is a label. This one is a label. This one is a label. Whereas this one is what? Input type text. This one is input type text. This is input type text. Is that clear? If you're using a checkbox, we are going to bring in a checkbox. We are going to bring in a radio button. We are going to bring in option button. You understand? I want you to know their functions. So this one is a very simple form that does not have radio and other buttons. But the three things it has is what we call label and what? Input type text. And then submit button. You will understand this now. Now, in this class, we are going to introduce other HTML elements known as div. Can you see this div? Can you see this div? Div is a very important element in HTML because you use it to make divisions. Div simply stands for divisions. You understand? Anything you want to be together, you enclose them in one div. Is that clear? So div is a very important element. And why you use div is that if you're attaching a CSS, are you listening to me? If you're attaching a CSS, it's always good you use div because with the div class, you can connect your HTML to the CSS. The CSS that is working on this is forms.css. If I come instead of having forms here, if I just put S here now and save this, if I go back, you see that this is how my form is looking because this form is no longer having CSS attached to it. Is that clear? But if I go back and attach a CSS, the name of the CSS is form.css and save, and I go back to my form, you see that the form is now looking well. This is an auto refresh, I hope you know, because I'm using live server. Okay, so what is that CSS that is making this form look fine? This is form CSS. This is the form.css. Is that clear? So you see here that what is being used is container. Can you see this container? Can you see input? This is if you want to style the container, you put dot container because it's a class. But if you want to style ordinary elements like input, you just put input. So if I go back to this register form, you see where my class container. Can you see where class container? So it means that anything under this class is going to have this very styling, which is just padding of 16 pixels. Is that clear? Then under input, anything in input is supposed to have this margin and this color. And that's why here, this is where we have our what? Input. Can we see our input? Can you see the input? And the input type is what? Test. This label, email. Can you see this email label? That is what we have here. This email here. Is that clear? After the email label, what do we have? The input type email. So if you go back here, after the label, this is the label. The next thing we have is what? Input type test that contains the email. Then after that, we have the label for password and the input type for the password. If you go back here, we have the label for the password and the input type for the password. Then after that, what do we have again? We have the what? The label for repeat password. Can you see repeat password? Then we have the what? Input type. Is that clear? So that's what we have here. Repeat password and the input type. Then after that, what do we have? We now have the what? Submit button. Can you see? The input type here is submit. You understand? Then after that, we have another class div known as container signing, where we have already have an account and sign in, which is actually what we have. Already have an account and sign in. So those are what we have on the HTML form. So why is he having all this plenty placeholder? Can anybody tell me the function of this placeholder? This placeholder, enter email. This is where we'll find it. Enter email. You understand? If you want something to be written inside your form, you use a placeholder to put it. Let me say now I come back here. I come and remove this placeholder attribute. I remove it, and then I will save Control S. This is under email. If I come back here, I will no longer see my enter email here. Can you see that? If I come back here again and do Control Z to put it back, and now add enter, instead of just enter email, I say enter email here. And then I do Control S to save. If I get back, I will see my enter email here. You understand? So if you want something inside your input type text, you have to put it in placeholder. Have you seen the function of placeholder? Now, when you define an element, this is an input element. You understand? All these other things you're adding, like text, type equal to text, placeholder equal to this, name equal to this, all these are known as attributes. They are known as what? Attributes. The name of the element is input. If you remove all these placeholders and have only input, you will still have your work there. You understand? So these attributes are other features that you can add to make it look good. Is that clear? If you put ID or class, are you seeing this attribute known as ID? You put it whenever you want to connect your form or your HTML element to a CSS. So there are two major attributes that you can use. You can use ID attributes or you can use class attributes. Is that clear? If you're connecting to a CSS. Then if you're connecting to a database, you use this name attribute because this is what it will be searching in database to connect this to database. And you know that it's always good you to connect your forms to database. Are we clear on that? Then placeholder, I've already told you what placeholder is, isn't it? Then this type is telling you this input, is it going to be of type checkbox? Is it going to be of type what's it called? Radio button. So you can see that this is type text. That is why we are having this text box here. So let's go back now and change this to type radio. Instead of type text now, I change this to type what? Radio, which is radio button. If I save and go back here now, you will see a radio button. Can you see radio button here now? Can you see this now? Okay, the screen is too small. Let me increase my screen so that you can see it. Can you see this radio button? Sorry. Are you seeing this radio button? Before it was a text box. You understand? For email, it's not changed to, if I want a checkbox, radio button is when you click. It's like this, you understand? If I go back here now, and instead of radio, I change it to checkbox. I do Control S to save. If I come back here now, you see what checkbox is? It's in form of block. You understand? If you change it to text, it will be like this. If I come back and change it to input type, text. If I save and come back now, it's now back to text. You understand? So depending on the element you want, that's what you put. So let's add up text box and other things to this thing now. If you want to add up text box, see the simple thing you do. Can you see this label and placeholder? I just copy it exactly the way it is. This is where I want to put my this thing before the submit button. So I come here, I do what? Paste it here. Then I come, instead of email, I will change this email to gender. Is that clear? Then I'll come back here for also change it to what? Gender. Is that clear? Then in place of type, I'm going to change, what do I change here? Radio, ba? So I change it to radio. But I want my radio to either be male or female, Abi? So it has to be up to 2, isn't it? Shouldn't be only 1. So I come down here and do what? Paste, copy and paste the same thing. So that this one will be for male, ba? If you're connected to database, make sure this is where you, sorry. Am I writing male for email? So male, and this one is going to be what? Female. Abi? So that is going to be the gender. Is that clear? So I can even, in place of this here, why am I having this? What mistake did I make here? I'm supposed to have break. Abi? So if I save this now, you're going to see 2 radio buttons when you come here. If you come here, can you see gender? This one is for male, this one is for female. Is that clear? So I can put another label to identify these 2. Class, are you understanding what we're doing? So this is this thing. If I come back here now, if let's say what I want to bring in is a checkbox. Okay, let me quickly add here. You understand? You come here, add what? Male. You can also add without putting either label or anything. You can just add up something by just typing it. So learn how to do that as well. Can you see that? So if I save now, I come back here. Can you see male and female? You understand? So you can actually use label or you just type it in front. Are we clear on that? So if you want to bring in checkbox, how do we bring in checkbox? I can still copy this gender. Abi? Copy it, come down here and do what? Paste it here. Is that clear? So instead of gender now, I'll put what? What should I put here? I'll put course. Our class here is majorly divided into what kind of people? People that are doing programming and people that are doing computer operations. But so instead of check this thing, what do I have? Checkbox, isn't it? Instead of this radio, what should I have now? Checkbox, isn't it? Abi? So in place of male and female, I can now have, if you're doing programming, it should be what? Programming. Then if you're doing computer operations, it should be what? Computer operation, isn't it? Then I save this. If I get back to my site, I will now see, can you see, I'm now having programming these days. But they're on the same line. How do I make them not to be on the same line? Can use break, isn't it? You already know how to put break. So I can come here and make sure that I put what? BR. Then when I come here, I also make sure that I put what? BR. Abi? So I can even put BRs behind all this so that it will look better. If I save, and get back, I'll be having a much prettier form. Can you see gender? Then this is for programming. Abi? So if I get back, I have to really arrange it very well. But you get the concept, you get what we are trying to do, isn't it? So I'm going to take them out again so that we'll bring them out in when we need them and when we can write them to be exactly what we want. So if I take them out, I get back to my site. Okay. So it looks like I took out my button as well, Abi. So I do Control Z to bring them back. I have to take out from here up to gender. Okay. And take this out. Okay. Control S to save. Yeah. So I'm back here. So please learn how to build out this form. Then very importantly, are we still listening? You need to create a new file under CSS. So you go and click on top of your CSS, then click on new file, then save the name as what? Form.css. So once you create that, you put this CSS. I want to explain this CSS to you. Now, if you get back to the register, the first line that was referenced for the CSS is where we brought in the CSS by simply saying link ref CSS href CSS slash form.css. We already know this, we did this last. Now, we are using div tag. The div guy, we assign it the class of what? Container. You understand? If you're not using the name of this element and you're using an attribute, say class, you must start that class with dot, the name of the class. Is that clear? If I get back here I'm using the input. I'm not using any of these attributes. I'm using the input directly. That's why when you come here, I have my input without having dot in front of it. Is that clear? If you're using ID, then you have to put hashtag before the ID. So when you look back at this my register, you see that here I have class container. That's why container is having dot in front of it. If I scroll down to any other place I have class, I'm also going to have, like this is signing. Okay, please let me let you guys just finish it up. You understand? So that before I start explaining this one, I think this one is getting too harsh on you guys. But just know that when you're referencing a class, you use dot. But when you're referencing an ID, you use hash. But when you're referencing the element itself, you don't use anything in front. This straight element, input, this straight element, HR, this straight element, A tag. This A tag is used for linking. So please, for our digital audience, our people in our class here, they've already typed this form.css. So I'm going to let you quickly snap it and type it down, form.css, so that we can bring it together. Okay, this form.css is also on our website for digital audience. Just get to our website, get to HTML extended, that's where we are. So once we get to our website, tclassified.com, click on blog, then click on HTML extended. So the codes that I'm showing you now, I've already pasted them here. So quickly get to our website, just scroll down to the last, that's what is there. This is the CSS. You can see it. You can see the CSS, this is the CSS, and this is the register.html. So go to our site, type out these two codes immediately, so that when I join back in, we can finish it up. So get to our website, you see all the codes there. So use it and create your form, do it immediately. So when I join back now, we are going to use the layout, this very layout, to combine all the works we've been doing. We are going to change this in such a way that when you click on home, it will lead you to the home.html. We will now put register here. We also we'll connect this to actual links. We'll connect this independence and this to actual blog posts, actual posts. That's what we're going to be doing when I join you back. So please get to our website, update your register.html and your form.css so that we can continue from there. So see you when I see you. Remember, everything you want is in Christ Jesus. The easiest way to success by being a born again. See you when I see you.